As you likely have heard, the infamous Andrew Tate has recently become Muslim. He's recently embraced Islam. Now, who is Andrew Tate? I actually first became aware of Andrew Tate or came across some of his content a couple years ago when I was just coming across material that had to do with contemporary culture and social dynamics and things of that nature. I came across some of his material and he in particular piqued my interest because of his background in kickboxing, which is something that I myself have a background in, practiced, participated in, something that I was always very passionate about. Yet his delivery, the way that he was presenting the information, and kind of the state that he was at the time, was a bit coarse and also in a state and in a place that really a Muslim wouldn't normally relate to. But then he came up again on my radar about a year or so ago when I saw a few clips of him praising Islam and praising Muslims for actually having backbone and having faith in what they believed in, actually believing in what they say they believed in. And even back then in some of these clips, he said that the religion of the future, if there is going to be a religion, it is going to have to be Islam. And then one of my sons happened to mention this guy, Andrew Tate, that he's come across on social media. And again, his name came up, again piqued my interest. And then I began to see him on podcasts, on a podcast with a few Muslim guys. Now, clearly he didn't know much about Islam, but the doorway began to open, right? I began to see this movement of Andrew Tate moving towards Islam. And then, of course, me and many others, people prayed that may Allah guide him. He was outspoken. He had praised Islam previous to coming to Islam. People prayed. We prayed, may Allah guide him to Islam. And then he rose to such prominence. He became the most popular man on the internet, the most searched for person on the internet. And then came the concerted, complete, total media blackout, where all of his social media accounts were practically overnight, in unison, canceled, and essentially he was deplatformed, literally in a couple of days. And now that was strange, how every social media platform acted in unison to deplatform one single human being, and for what? What exactly was he doing or saying that was so dangerous? Well, he was accused of misogyny. This was the accusation, that this man is promoting misogyny, which is kind of strange because there's no shortage of misogynist and even more so misandrous content on the internet. You can literally find statements, posts, videos of women saying kill all men. Men are evil, men are trash. There's no shortage of this type of content. And yet none of it is blocked, none of it is really banned. Nobody was deplatformed for any of this stuff. And strangely enough, the deplatforming of Andrew Tate actually made him even more popular. More and more people were curious now, who is this Andrew Tate? What is he saying? And why was it deplatformed? So there was then I came across yet another interview or clips of an interview with him on Piers Morgan. And of course, that turned out to be a bit of a sensationalist interview. Piers Morgan put up a bunch of straw man arguments, attempted to label him and put him in a box, and it only added more to his popularity. Not unlike the way the Kathy Newman and Jordan Peterson interview did, where she persistently humiliated herself by attempting to barrage and insult and accuse Jordan Peterson of things that he was not even saying. In the same way, that made Jordan Peterson even more popular among people, and this actually made Andrew Tate even more popular. And then at the height of his popularity, Andrew Tate embraces Islam. MashaAllah wa Allahu Akbar. At the height of his popularity, this man then embraces Islam publicly. And so why is this important? Well, a few reasons. Number one, because he and others like him can be a powerful force for good. Now let's remember for a moment the example of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, the great companion of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if a prophet is to come after me, it will be Umar. And Sayyidina Umar did not have, prior to coming to Islam, the best of paths, the best of intentions. In fact, he embraced Islam when he was on his way to kill the Prophet. Peace and blessings upon the noble messenger and upon all the prophets and messengers of God. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made dua, he made supplication, he prayed to Allah. O Allah, strengthen Islam with either Abu Jahl or Umar ibn al-Khattab. He ﷺ said, O Allah, prayed, O Allah, strengthen Islam with the one of these two men that you love more, either Abu Jahl or Umar. And of course, Umar's heart opened to Islam and he embraced Islam and then became one of the strongest proponents of Islam. Prior to that, the Muslims could not even pray in public. But with Umar at their front, with Umar at their head, the Muslims were able to pray openly at the Kaaba. And this is with the strength of Sayyidina Umar. And of course, it is Allah's strength and power manifesting through Sayyidina Umar. Now, rather than having universal good opinion, goodwill, welcoming, happiness, joy, that a brother, another human being has come to Islam, especially one of such popularity. Again, he was the most popular man on the internet. we've had mixed reactions within the Muslim community. And like many things in this day and age, this issue too quickly became polarizing. Many were happy and welcoming. Welcome to the brother. May Allah continue to guide him on the straight path. Yet some within the community were outright hostile and bitter, to the point that some had even said, if this man comes to Islam, I will leave Islam. Now, according to traditional principles of the faith and the religion, that is enough to have already taken a person outside of Islam. Allah Almighty says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, O you who believe, whoever amongst you renounces his or her faith, Allah will bring a people whom He loves and who love Him. They will be humble towards the believers, yet strict and strong towards the disbelievers, striving in the way of Allah and fearing no reproach from any critic. This is Allah's favor which He gives to whom He wills. And Allah is all bountiful, all knowing. This is from Surah Al-Ma'idah. And also we have to remember, guidance is a gift from God. I don't choose, you don't choose. No one chooses who enters into Islam or who leaves Islam. Guidance is a gift from God. And let us also remember that Islam doesn't need me, doesn't need you, doesn't need Andrew Tate, doesn't need anyone. So who exactly are people threatening when they say that they're going to leave Islam if so-and-so enters into Islam? Who are you threatening? And it goes to show how little faith there is left in the Muslim community. Sure, our numbers are many, nearly 2 billion, but how much faith, real faith, is there left in this community? And you know, subhanAllah, it doesn't take much. 10,000 true believers can change the entire world. The Prophet ﷺ said that there will come a time when there will be nothing left of Islam but its name. People will identify as Muslims, but they will be very far from Islam. And we are in that time. So the question is, what are such people aligned to the point that they are aligned to other ideologies more so than to truth, than to haqq, than to Islam, than to Kitabullah? The Holy Prophet ﷺ said that Islam erases everything that came before it. Allah Almighty says in the Quran that when a person enters into Islam, not only are they forgiven, but even their bad deeds are turned into good deeds. So what paradigm are people within the Muslim community choosing and believing in that can result in such ignorance, in such jahiliyyah, in such utter and absolute disbelief? What are they choosing? What are they aligning themselves to, if not Islam? Again, Andrew Tate was accused of misogyny. That was his crime. This was the supposed reason he was universally silenced on all social media. And it really makes you wonder how the Matrix instantly tried to deplatform and completely silence this one individual, and then Allah guides him to Islam. Brothers and sisters, in faith, in Islam, in any traditional faith, we live in a world in which from a young age we are conditioned, bombarded, programmed, and misguided to believe in false paradigms, false ideologies. And now everything has to become clear. Now we as believers have to take a stand for truth, for the religion of Allah and His Messenger. Not as we would want it to be based on our own misguided and modern interpretations, but as Allah and His Messenger revealed. So the question here now is, why did Andrew Tate come to Islam? He didn't come to Islam because he was studying the principles of Aqidah and ideology and creed. He didn't come to Islam because the Trinity didn't make sense to him. He didn't come to Islam because he studied the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He came to Islam, in his own words, because he saw it as the last stronghold, as the last bastion against ever-encroaching kufr, ever-encroaching insanity, this epidemic, this pandemic of cultural chaos that is now looking to consume the world and destroy human civilization by destroying human culture. This is what led him to Islam, that Islam was the last stronghold against this kufr. He recognized that Islam is the last faith, the last religion that has the power to stand for what is right, for what is true, against this impending onslaught, to stand for what is right and true, and to stand against what is false, what is wrong, what is evil, what is batil. Brothers and sisters, we are at war. Humanity is at war. There is a war on humanity. It was declared upon humanity at the beginning of our creation, and it has not stopped, it has not subsided. And it's time to wake up and realize that we are at war, and that we have to choose a side. We have to make a choice between truth and falsehood, between haqq and batil. This impending onslaught of modernity, modern understanding, modern interpretations, progressivism, is a war on faith. It's a war on tradition. It's a war on God. And for many within our community, many of us who have grown up in the last few generations being bombarded with these ideas throughout the entirety of our upbringing, through media, through education, through higher education, it may be difficult to make this choice. It may be difficult to make the right choice, but we do not get a pass. You do not get a pass. Remember that God doesn't need any of us. Allah doesn't need me. He doesn't need you. Islam doesn't need any of us. It does not need you nor I. And if your allegiance is to something other than Allah and His Messenger, if your allegiance is to another ideology, another creed, another paradigm, such as feminism or liberalism or any other ism, then to you your religion and to us ours. Islam will not and cannot be compromised. Not in its faith, not in its creed, not in its ideology, not in its principles, nor in its practice. And it is time for believers to wake up. It's time for believers to awaken and to stand for truth, because humanity is looking for truth. And the last stronghold is Islam. I pray that we all make the right choice, that you and I make the right choice, and align ourselves firmly on haqq and ala sirat al-mustaqim ala din al-haqq, on the straight path and on the religion of truth, and to side against our own selves if we must, for the sake of truth. Remember that our time here is limited. This world is passing, this world is fleeting, and death is imminent. What are we trading for life eternal? What are people choosing? What are people trading for eternity? There's only one path that leads to peace and to paradise and to prosperity. And it is not what the world of the Antichrist is promising. The water that he shows you leads to hell. And we can look at the results in our own lives as well as in the lives of others. Society is on the verge of collapse. Human culture is imploding under its own insanity. There's only one path that leads to peace, to prosperity, to paradise. That is the path of faith. That is the way in the path of the messengers of God. All other paths will lead to hell. And we're not smart enough to figure all of this out. The only hope for us is to be humble enough to follow the guidance that Allah and His Messenger have revealed, the last and final Prophet of Allah. So a warm welcome to Brother Andrew Tate. May Allah continue to guide him, to make him sincere, to help him grow in his faith and to not turn back, to continue to progress towards God and His Messenger, to continue to align his life with what is good, what is righteous, what is pure, and may he and us all, become a means for others to come back to faith, to come back to tradition, to come back to God and His Messenger. May Allah Almighty use us each to that which is pleasing to Him. And may He Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala keep our feet firmly planted on Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path, the path of truth, balance, excellence, righteousness, purity, the path of faith and strength from Allah Almighty, strength for Allah Almighty. May He give us hearts that can discern truth from falsehood, and to see through the fog and the confusion. May He protect us from our own selves and our own emotions, particularly emotions that come from ego and from pride, from selfishness. And with the light of faith, may we see clearly what is good and move towards it and away from what is bad. May Allah bless you, brothers and sisters, to your divine and eternal success. Fi amanullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.